Hello and welcome back to Fujitsu Forum TV. We continue thick and fast with the interviews this afternoon. It's been a packed agenda so far. Up next, financial services. It's amid a fascinating change. They're becoming agile technology companies, and this is being forced by expectation from consumers. With me to help us understand everything that's going on is Pascal Hubers. Pascal's the CTO for financial services here at Fujitsu. I do hope I pronounced your surname correctly.
It's Hubers, I'm Dutch, but you did fine.
I'm going to hide behind that abysmal British inability to pronounce foreign names, so apologies, Pascal. I'm fascinated by some comments that I saw earlier, that financial institutions are amidst redefining themselves as agile technology companies to try and keep pace with consumer demands. What does all that mean?
Yeah, exactly. What we see is a big change going on in the financial services market. So what we see is changing customer demands, the way the customers deal with financial institutions and what they expect from them. So a lot is now online, and there's a lot of challenges around having branches and how do you even deal with branches and with cash. And we see a big difference. We see a big difference, for example, in the Nordics, where they deal with ATM business, for example, completely different than they do in Spain. Or in the other southern regions, because cash is more normal there as well. So what we see now is that this change and this changing behavior in the financial services market is really important for banks, and they have to change as well themselves. So they are now adapting agile ways of working to deliver new services and products to their customers, but also to be much more customer engaged and understand what customer wants and what kind of services they want to deliver to them.
What are the sort of trends and challenges that's driving the need for change then? I mean, what's behind all of this?
Yeah, I think it depends a bit on the country. You see, we see some different things. For example, we have challenger banks now coming up, which are all almost digital only, online or mobile app kind of banks, which are really focused on the customer experience. I think that's one of the triggers.
Well, we saw Duncan Tate's keynote referencing what ING
exactly.
are doing.
Yeah, exactly. So ING, I think, is a really good example of trying to stay ahead of the pack. And introducing also new ways of working and so on. But we also see some change in regulation, for example PSD2. So you have to open up your bank to other competitors as well, so they can get to information and so on from your bank. So we see some different moves and changes in the market which are a reason for banks to change for now.
On Fujitsu Forum TV, one of the questions we've been asking today is, what's coming in the future? I mean, I know there's loads of change happening right now, but the technologies that are going to impact industry and help move not just banks but insurers forward, what technologies are going to come to the fore?
I think we live in amazing times. So I have a presentation tomorrow on quantum computing and AI for financial services.
Okay.
And I think the combination of digital data and the maturity of artificial intelligence, and also the level of computer power we have, also with the digital annealer, quantum computing kind of concepts, I think that will really change the way we deal with digital and digital interactions and digital capabilities and so on. Because if you look at this for now, we just have traditional, more traditional kind of solutions and more traditional kind of ways of computing and so on. But now we are making the next step. So I think the coming years will really be the next step, where we can really build smart organizations based on AI, for example, but also for virtual customer interactions based on AI.
Do you think financial institutions are ready for the change? Are they embracing change fast enough, or are you still having to sort of usher them in the right direction?
Well, I think they recognize the trends and they try to find a way to deal with this. For example, by introducing new ways of agile development, the way they deliver new products and services. But the other thing is, and I just discussed this in the panel that we had as well, maybe it's too difficult to change your entire organization and your IT landscape to this new way of working. Maybe you have to build your own competitor yourself and then create all the best things you can do in your best customer experience through that new kind of label you have. That might be one of the options, but I think it's top of mind, but it's really difficult to really make a change for banks to do this.
I mean, I'm fascinated by the amount of change that's got to go on. I mean, I have one of the new disruptor digital banks that I use. I'm completely bought into the benefits. Okay. If I'm a traditional bank, I'm looking at that thinking, gosh, that's a lot of change that we've got to go through to keep pace, a lot of IT change. where are we going to get the IT resource from? That's got to be a huge challenge, isn't it? To not only make the change, but then deliver it and maintain the systems.
Yeah, exactly. And you also need to have the skills as well. So, like you said, the competitor banks, they even include cryptocurrencies, direct loans that you can get right from an app. So they have always new ways of dealing with the customer interaction. But it also means you have to understand the customer needs. And you have to be able to develop something like this yourself. So services inside, but also the mobile application development and those kind of things. So I think it's really important to focus on people and try to make this transformation with the right people that you can find. But it will become harder because especially on the topics I just mentioned, there are not so many people on these kind of topics. And you have to know a lot about a lot of stuff at the same time. So I think that will be challenging.
That probably brings us nicely back. We had an interview earlier with the Workplace Anywhere team saying, helping us understand about the cultural challenges that if new technology comes in, new staff comes in, how do you embed that into your organisation? How do you truly transform the organisation, not just the technology? It sounds like financial services has got a lot to do.
Exactly, but this is also important because if you want to have the best talent and they come on board and they have this old traditional environment and the sign-up takes forever and they can't get into systems and so on, and it needs to be smooth, it needs to be modern, it needs to be, because then you feel like you're at the right place, then it fits your talent. I think that's important. So also modern workplace is something you really need to build up to a really good level to make sure the people you get are also really supported by this.
I know we haven't spoken about this question, but just sort of listening to the conversation. Back in the UK, we've had a lot of branch closures.
Yeah.
Duncan Tate's, President Tanaka's keynote earlier, the ING reference.
Yeah.
There are financial institutions thriving without the traditional branch model.
Yeah.
Are we going to see more of that in the future?
Ooh, that's a good question. I had a really interesting discussion with one of the analysts currently at the forum. We didn't really agree because we were discussing what is the role of ATM. And his idea was that the ATM has really an important role in the future always because you need to go somewhere. Maybe that's true, but he also said that maybe it needs to change to a customer touch points, and that's also a thing I believe in as well. I think there's always a role for multi-engagement, different kind of channels. If it's only a mobile app you have, then you can just go to another bank and then it's just a change of logo. But if you are really engaged with a bank, you trust the logo and you can come there, maybe get other type of services as well, really on the spot, I think that can make a difference. But then you don't need the traditional branches anymore. I think it's time for a new kind of model to support also local visits and so on. Maybe new kind of concepts that you can visit or something.
Who are the shining examples of organisations who are getting it right? I know we've mentioned ING quite a bit in this interview, but are there other examples out there that industry should be looking at and thinking, okay, I need to follow their lead, they're getting it right, they're delivering good transformation?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think it's difficult to compare the banks if you really look at the regions. I think it's in Brazil, for example, it's totally different than it is in the southern region of Europe, and also the northern region is very different. Because, for example, everything is online in the northern region. They are more used to having ideas and doing things digital, and in the southern region we have more cash and so on. But one thing I really liked is the old ING Direct, sorry for that, which is called Tangerine. I once visited them in Canada, and they had this cafe kind of idea that you can visit and get a cup of coffee, and there was a tablet and you can just play with it, and somebody tries to help you, and there was a bank. It was funny. It was a totally different kind of concept, and I like these kind of concepts, and I think that's what we have to figure out. How can we really deal with these kind of things in the interaction and so on?
Fascinating stuff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Pascal. If that's piqued your interest, we've got some interesting interviews coming up. Estonia, a country leading the way in public sector. Put bluntly, they're showing the rest of Europe how to do it with their digital transformation. But they've only got 1.3 million citizens. Could a country like Germany with 86 million citizens follow suit? Well, that's one of the interviews we'll be bringing you tomorrow. There seems to be a bit of a trend coming out of Fujitsu Forum 18 today. It's probably not the countries and locations that you think are leading the charge. There's some pretty surprising stories that are being surfaced. Hearing about how the Nordics are leading the online charge within FS is one of those. There's plenty more insight, plenty more surprises to come your way on Fujitsu Forum TV. We'll be back on air. What time is it now? It's 12 minutes past 3. 3:30 is our next interview. We're going to be picking up with Fujitsu and Microsoft. Co-creation for success is the theme of Fujitsu Forum 2018. The partnership between Fujitsu and Microsoft is a special one. You probably saw in Duncan's keynote earlier the new deal that's been signed, what that means for Fujitsu's customers. Well, we're going to be getting into a bit of that in our interview next. That's coming your way, just over 15 minutes now. Stay with us. See you soon.